Hello and welcome to our demonstration titled Managing Global Security Operations for Your Organization. From global, local to tactical. My name is Carl Walter and I serve as the Director of Homeland Security Solutions here at Esri and I'm part of the larger Esri Public Safety team, and I'll be facilitating our presentation today. Public and private security organizations are increasingly coming to rely on GIS and a variety of sources of information to help predict, prevent, investigate, respond to, and manage planned and unplanned incidents and events. I've brought together today several Esri subject matter experts who will explain how to integrate various information feeds into ArcGIS to support things like business continuity, employee citizen safety, threat analysis, investigations, incident and event management, and even tactical response. You'll learn how web mapping and desktop applications, data, and tradecraft come together to help users mitigate, respond to, and recover from crime, threats, and hazards from a global all the way down to a local level. Our subtitle today here, Global, Local, Tactical, is important because whether you're a multinational company or a large national government agency, there's always going to be a need to monitor and protect your people, your supply chains, and assets all over the globe. However, when a crisis does actually strike, or a critical incident occurs, it becomes a local problem real quickly, a local situation. And with that comes the need for different technical capabilities and different analytics. Oftentimes, a local problem requires some kind of response, and that's where tactical comes into play. Not everything can be solved in a command center, and sometimes a response is required that entails security personnel being dispatched to the field and managed from a command center. Our objective today is to show how to bring all that together into one suite of applications using the ArcGIS platform. Our agenda today involves three main vignettes. Each one's aimed at providing a global, a local, and a tactical use case. And while the examples are loosely related, we don't attempt to walk you through one continuous steel thread or storyline from start to finish. With simulated demos like this, sometimes long stories are simply hard to follow, and we don't want the story to be more important than the three key workflows. And that's why we're having several distinct components for today's presentation. The first vignette, titled Fusion Center Solution, will involve managing multi-source real-time threat feeds. That can include collecting, analyzing, and triaging real-time sources of information that can include media reports, social media, even weather, and that's going to help us understand how we can manage global threats. The next vignette is called Insider Threat Analysis, and that's going to involve leveraging PSIM data, Physical Security Information Management System data. In this example, we're going to take extracts from a car-keyed access control application and identify potentially suspicious employee activity. This is going to be our example about understanding and managing local threats. Our third vignette is going to be called Tactical Situational Awareness, and we're going to be using ArcGIS Mission. We will walk through our mission management software solution that provides organizations and agencies with a comprehensive understanding of an operating environment. Team members can track, monitor, and coordinate movement via location sharing and peer-to-peer communication. And the example we're going to be doing is managing a tactical response, and again, with communications from the field back and forth to the command center. In a moment, Lyle Wright is going to take over, and he's going to walk us through our first technical review. The vignette's going to be our new Fusion Center solution. This solution is a configuration of maps, apps, and tools that organizations use to understand the global threat landscape. Before I turn things over to Lyle, let's walk through the demo a little bit and get a better understanding of the use cases. I'll provide a little bit of background so you can better understand the technical demo. The Fusion Center solution allows us to manage multi-source threat feeds, collecting, analyzing, and triaging real-time sources of information, including media reports, from social media providers and others, even weather feeds, so we can track things like lightning strikes, tornadoes, hurricanes, to better understand global threats. So the first step for us here is to understand the global threat. We compare collected threat data to something that we care about, people, places, or things. The example we're going to be using today involves our Esri assets, our worldwide facilities, including our Esri distributors. Here, we can quickly load our asset data points into the solution and do things like query our facilities or any point of interest by city, state, country, and even by facility type. Our sources of information for this demo come from 3 places, although there's really no limit, but they come from Factal, Data and the National Weather Service. We have seamless integration with each of these third-party feeds, and the solutions are designed to accept other feeds as well, not just the ones that we're demonstrating today. Part of our requirements on data feeds involves finding third parties and partners that use real-time AI platforms to detect the earliest signals of high-impact events and emerging risks from publicly available data. Organizations are also free to use in-house data as well for further information analysis. Here, the key capabilities involve, first, bringing in the third-party data feed, next, performing proximity searches around, in this example, Esri facilities, Esri assets, and then next, filtering and focusing on only what matters. I don't want to see everything, I want to see what's important. And here we're only showing Esri assets that intersect with one of our threat feeds via a user-defined proximity search, which is always running. Next, when our global monitoring identifies an event of interest, we can dig in and zoom in and look at things much more closely and locally. And we can start examining other sources of publicly available data. The Fusion Center solution also allows us to alert facility administrators and allows command center personnel to triage incoming feeds by assigning a status of open, under review, or closed to every incident of interest. Here, the incident status tool is managed through the Incident Triage Manager tool, a very simple way to understand if an incident should remain open, closed, or under review. The Fusion Center solution also has capabilities to conduct in-depth community analysis, leveraging a product called Business Analyst. You can identify areas for analysis based on circumstances critical to your needs, to your industry, from site selection to shelter locations for emergency response, or even the location of hospitals, banks, or even something as specific as an ATM. You can analyze these areas using Esri demographics alongside your own data, and then finally you can present your data and your findings with custom reports and infographics and map-based stories that showcase your analysis. Again, when global monitoring identifies local threats, we also built into the solution the ability to understand consequences associated with explosives and the release of toxic and industrial materials. Our example today will use the JCAT counterterrorism bomb threat standoff distances so we can recommend evacuation zones and shelter-in-place zones. Finally, we want to bring all this information together into a single pane of glass for quick and simple executive review, which we'll be doing so using various configurations of Operations Dashboard. I'm now going to turn things over to Lyle, where he will provide a technical review of the Fusion Center solution.
Businesses face a daunting task of responding to multiple threats on a global scale. Organizations implement policies and processes to respond to and mitigate these threats. This process is known as threat mitigation, and it always starts with the location of the threat. To be able to tie that to the criticality of your organization's assets, the people, places, and things, is the exact process that must be done to understand how to do threat mitigation well. We've created the Fusion Center solution to help with this process. The Fusion Center solution is a configuration of maps, apps, and tools and processes that allow an organization to respond to threats and understand the threat landscape effectively for their organization. We do so by breaking down those threats based on the type of facility that's been impacted, the locations based on the countries, the states, or the city breakdown of each individual asset and how they're being affected. For instance, right now I have two facilities that have been impacted in Portland, Vienna, and New York. Let's look at our most impacted facility at the current moment, which is just outside of Washington, D.C. in Arlington. And we have an incident that's happened on a bridge. In an area like Washington, D.C., when incidents happen along bridges, it affects and disrupts the process of how people get to work and how they're able to conduct business operations. So let's look at what's happening here. Essentially, we have an incident come in saying that there's been a vehicle that needs to be cleared on the Theodore Roosevelt Bridge. To take a closer look, we'll pass this over to an analyst that will use the incident triage manager to analyze the situation further. The first thing the analyst would want to do is be able to understand the actual source of the information. So we launch the source URL that takes us directly to the tweet itself. From here, I just want to perform a basic tactical analysis to be able to understand how commuting would be affected by this issue on the bridge. To do so, though, I want to be able to communicate directly to that facility administrator at that particular facility. So in here, I'm just going to share our basic template, and I'm just going to drop some reports into this email to be able to send to that person. I start off by selecting that location. And running our business analyst report generator. We have a variety of reports and infographics that you can access. The one that I'm going to access right now is our commute profile. This is going to explain to me how people in this area generally get to work. So at this point, I see that over half of the individuals in this area either take public transportation or walk to work. I've ran a few of these reports before this, so I'm just going to go ahead and just take these reports and go ahead and email these to those individuals. This is as easy as just saving those infographics locally, being able to drop those into an email application, and off it goes. Send that to the facility administrator. At this point, at the corporate level, I don't feel like there's much more we can do for this particular incident. So I'm going to go ahead and just close this and say, capture a few notes so everyone knows what my feeling was and why I closed this. Using the Incident Triage Manager, I'm not only able to triage these incidents, I'm able to tie all the work that I'm doing to my profile. So if anybody ever has a question about why something was closed or why something was said or a decision was made, that's directly tied to whoever was monitoring that situation. This allows further analysis, such as look-back analysis or looking at reviews, or just be able to understand the situation more effectively. So while I'm here, let's just go ahead and look at some of the other scenarios that are happening within this area. So I have a few different reports here, and what I notice is that this is actually a variety of reports that are probably directly affected in the same scenario. So what I could do is let's read one of these reports. It's a basic information. We don't really have any data available for this. That means that I might not have responded in time, or this information just might be erroneous. So what I can do is I can click on the map, and because I have multiple selected, I can go ahead and close all of these different reports at once if I wanted to. Let's go ahead and just open one of these just real quick just to make sure that we understand truly what's happening here. So let me go ahead and take the show all selected off, and let's go ahead and just zoom down, and let's open up one of these that has an incident ID and just understand. So essentially, this is information coming about protesters and a senator's stance on the scenario. So I'm going to go back and just say show selected. I'm going to click on the map. I'm going to have all of these here. I'm going to say, hey, I want to close all these at once. When you listen to a variety of sources, you don't know how much information is going to be applicable to you until you actually analyze that information. So what I've been able to do is take the assessment that these reports were not in any way affecting my organization and close those out in a batch process, so that makes my job a little easier. At this point, let's go back and look at the Incident Monitor dashboard, and let's figure out exactly what else we can do around this scenario of today of what's happening. The next thing I want to do is let's look at our location in Bisbee. So in Australia, we have a particular one facility, and just down the road from our facility, we have an incident that came out. And essentially, we have this under review right now. This is saying the chief health officer, one man was dead from a COVID case coming back as a false positive. So in this scenario, what I want to do is I want to be able to say, hey, look, let's look at what's happening here. So that link for that Twitter feed is no longer available. However, what I can do is I can launch this information directly into our data miner application and get not only just the incident that was affected, that was created by our third-party data provider, but also all of the information related to this. So this helps analysts understand how information is relatable when it definitely might not have came in from the source. Data miner provides that relationship. So with that, what I want to do is just kick this back over to my analyst, have my analyst look at this information and figure out what to do in relation to this. So let's go ahead and open our threats one more time. We can come over to Bisbee, look at that particular location. I notice I have 3 different incidents here around Bisbee. So I'm going to go ahead and take show selected off, and all of these are essentially understanding how to respond. So someone's already responded to multiple of these inside my organization, which means that I don't actually want to do anything at this point because it seems like someone else is already handling this. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and say show all and take a little bit deeper look at other things happening in my organization. So let's go ahead and just jump over to New York City and look at New York City. So in this scenario, I have this New York City 2 is one of our locations. And this particular incident is affecting both NYC2 and NYC3. So essentially this is, we have some protesters blocking the advancement of something inside of New York City. And what I want to do is just perform a tactical analysis, just create a few buffers to understand some basic information around the protesters and our actual scenario inside of New York City. So zoom out, notice that I have 2 different locations in New York City, here and here, and then I also have a third location, NYC, but this location is not affected. So essentially I have 3 locations, but only 2 are affected currently. So with this information, let's just go ahead and just let's just do a distance and direction around a few of these to just understand exactly what's happening. So I want to just select a location here, and I'm just going to run a few things saying, hey, how far is this location from others happening? So here I'll go ahead and say, okay, from here, that's my 1 mile distance. Let's go ahead and create a 2 mile distance and a 3 mile distance. So it seems like this location is within 3 miles, is just right outside 3 miles. However, I have these 2 locations here that might be impacted a little differently for this. So I might want to take a further look upon this. I might want to go back and just say, hey, send this up, and let's just go ahead and say under review, we need to understand, action needed is it, do we need to respond to this issue for the safety of our workers? So let's just jump over and start looking through. This is all the different things that I'm responsible for every day. So Nanco Trading Company is a location that we have in Yemen. Let's jump to this location and get a better understanding of what happened. And essentially, there's explosions that have been heard at this particular location. So I want to go ahead and just look at the source information for this particular incident. And when I do this, I notice this is in a different language. So let's go ahead and just try to change this to English and see if that will translate this browser. It does not. So instead of that, let's go ahead and just look at our data provider and see exactly what comes up in there. And just like before, we have This information comes here, but there's also some more information around what's actually happening. So there was an airstrike that was in this scenario. I'm not really sure if this is going to affect us or not. So what I want to do is just go ahead and just put this under review as well, so I know that we need to take executive action needs to be possibly taken. This will allow other individuals to know that I've put in my assessment on this scenario. However, I need further help in this. So I can now send that out, and that can then be monitored by others to truly understand what's happening. Our last location is, let's look at how would we respond to a terror threat. So in this scenario, we have 30,000 Mossad agents have been seen around our Tel Aviv location. And with that Tel Aviv location, what we want to be able to do is just perform some tactical analysis associated to this particular location. So let's go ahead and zoom to our Tel Aviv location and give us just a basic understanding of where things are. And what I want to do is say, hey, based on this particular location, it seems like this incident is quite far away. But what we want to be able to do is say, if there was any type of scenario where there was an actual threat, we could use the threat analysis widget. This threat analysis widget is based on the standards that come out of our DNI, the Defense National Intelligence, to understand how to respond to the different types of blasts that could happen and the standoff distance. So like, let's go back here and say, hey, if there was a particular briefcase bomb that was placed in or around our location, how do we need to respond? The response comes back into two different forms. The area in yellow is the area that is a stay in shelter. So if you're inside, you're totally fine, and you should be totally fine in this scenario. However, if you notice, our location is directly impacted in this location where we'd have to evacuate the entire building and possibly move out of the yellow area if possible. So with that, we can come back here and say, not only do we want to put this under review, but looking into further details on how we will respond. So I'm effectively being able to communicate with my team members on everything that's happening inside of my organization for each of these individual threats, being able to record that information effectively to be able to give a true assessment of what's happening. So the threat feeds are just one portion of this. The other portion is we also have hazards. Hazards are feeds that are coming from our weather sources. So we have the National Weather Service that is giving us some basic understanding of what's happening throughout the United States. So if we go down to Dallas, what we'll notice is Dallas is having some high ozone days. Not much we can do about that. We can just go ahead and close that. No action needed, no notes needed. It's pretty clear on what happened. However, if we go to one of these other locations, there could be other information such as Miami, where Miami is facing potential heavy rain and flooding. So that means that we might need to understand how to protect our asset for this. So under review, I just want to be able to say is that I know that before we've had to have sandbags associated to particular office suites to make sure that things don't flood. So this is possibly going to happen over a weekend. So we just want to be able to make sure we have that, and we have that under review. So this entire process has allowed us to be able to effectively communicate back inside of our GSOC to different analysts and executives about truly what's happening within our organization. The next thing we can do is be able to share this with executives to allow them to understand how we're responding and what the current posture of our response is to all of these incidents. This incident statistics allows us to understand how many cases we've closed, how many we've opened, and how many are currently under review. We can select this based on a particular location too, to say, hey, what's happening in San Francisco? We essentially have 6 open cases, and none of those have been responded to. We can look at Australia and say, hey, we have 4. We can continue to go down and get a very firm understanding of what's happening within our organization. We also understand when all these sources of information has come out. So how long has it been since we responded? When were things closed? When were they open and that stuff? This allows us to really truly understand how to take all these processes that are put in place by organizations and utilize a solution such as the Fusion Center to truly understand how to respond. So with that, what we now want to do is explain to you, how would you get the Fusion Center? ArcGIS Solutions is a team that focuses on creating solutions that are configurable around different business processes, such as what we just went through. We are broken down into a variety of different teams that focus on different industries. Today you saw information coming from our ArcGIS Solutions for Business team. Under corporate security is where you would find the Fusion Center solution, upon other solutions as well. So if you look at business resilience, this is another solution we have. This solution, just like others, comes with a basic overview of what you actually want to get. If you want to try it now and get a better understanding of that actual solution, you can by launching this Try It Now. And it launches a dimmable application to just get a basic understanding of what's actually included in a particular solution. So it will give you firm step-by-step instructions on what to do and how to do it. So this is our business resilience solution that totally might be of interest to you as well. You get basic requirements to include what you get down to the maps, what are each map used for, what is each feature layer used for, and then all that information as well around what is included in the map. We give you step-by-step instructions on how to install and configure and load the solution. We do this in a way that also allows you to understand how to utilize the solution. So here's a user guide on the basic assessments, how to send an assessment, how to send an assessment to multiple facilities. So each of these solutions is documented, supported, and configured in a way to allow you as a business executive or your team to be successfully utilizing the solutions.
Now that we've completed our first vignette that focused on global monitoring and the heavy reliance on dashboards, we're now going to focus on a more localized example. And the primary technology product we're going to leverage here is ArcGIS Insights. Presenting this vignette is going to be Phil Milkey, but before he starts, I'm going to provide just a little bit more background information. When we say ArcGIS Insights, think analytics workbench that allows you to perform iterative and exploratory data analysis. You can answer questions with data taken from your own ArcGIS, from Excel spreadsheets, from many different business databases, simply by dragging and dropping data into the application and then beginning to perform analysis. Heavy-duty analysis, heavy-duty analytics is truly the differentiator between Esri and many of the other security platforms that you'll find out there on the market. And while dashboards serve a great purpose, you need to be able to dig much deeper into your data as well as interrelate it with numerous other relevant data sets. So think about viewing maps, charts, graphs, tables all in one environment and being able to dynamically link each of those, and maybe most important, being able to learn how to use this tool all in about 30 minutes. It's truly that easy. Let's get into a little bit of the background of this use case of insider threat interrogating access control data. Access control data is data that's collected and stored every time you badge swipe your way in and out of a building. So what analytical tools and tradecraft can we deploy so analysts can identify routine trends in the information as well as anomalies that may indicate suspicious activity or something that's worthy of a follow-up investigation? Here's how we start. Our example is, again, going to involve the Esri facilities, and our first step is to acquire our facility GIS data layers. Within this data is a field that identifies every door and badge reader on our campus. Very common, everyone has this technology. Next, what we need to do is get an extract from our access control system that logs badge-in activity. Within this table, you'll see there's a couple key fields that were of interest to us here. Employee number, date, time of entry, and maybe most important, the door ID. The door ID from the facility data layer can be linked to the door ID from the access control system, and you can now map employee entry activity on top of your facility map. Once that's done, this is where you can really begin to interrogate this data, locating routine activity, suspicious activity, like entry denial to a secure space, late night, weekend activity, even more complicated activity in one facility in one city while that employee is actually traveling in another city. There are many more examples of what we can do here, but I'm going to turn this over to Phil now, and he's going to walk us through some of these examples directly in Insights.
So one of the great things about Insights is the ability to use a variety of different pieces of data in order to be able to collect, to understand the relationships between data, and ultimately derive some immediately actionable information. So what I want to see here at this point is the relationship between our entry logs, our badge scans that happen at our individual gates and entry points, and understand that relationship with the geographies, the buildings that are being served here, in order to be able to maintain facility security and to make sense of that volume of data that's being collected on a regular basis. So what we have here are points of entry. It's actually all of our asset types that we have within our facilities feature set, and these are for safety's sake as well too. And this includes AEDs, fire extinguisher, first aids, and gates. And really all I'm interested in is the exits and the entry points in order to be able to join that information to our entry log statistics. So what does an entry log look like? Well, let me show you real quick. It's some really simple information. It's the employee number, the entrance and exit that's being scanned at, as well as a timestamp. And there are also occasions here in our database where we're going to find denial of entry as well too. And so that's marked here as a DOE. And so whenever we make a regular scan in our process of being able to enter a door, or you maybe that employees are entering dozens of doors throughout the course of the day, and that's should be all normal, well and good, but what we want to be able to understand is some of the outliers, the times that are happening that may be a little bit suspicious, and also understand some of those that are receiving a high rate of denial of entry. So the first thing that we're going to do is to create a relationship between our points of entry and that log data. And we're going to do that via the name field on our facility data, and then the entry point on that log data. And this is going to create a relationship, which is essentially going to be a new data set for us to work with within Insights. So one of the first things that I want to show is a map that now is utilizing this relationship layer in order to show the volume of information that we're seeing here in terms of our entry statistics. And the way that we're going to make that visible here is to choose within our options how we're going to be styling this information and what field we're ultimately using in order to make sense of this. And we're going to do that scrolling down to the count of the entry log statistics here. And what we're going to see first is this view where we can understand each one of the gates, the number of times that these gates have been, or these entry points have been made, and we can also start to understand some, immediate trends with this data as well too. This building is receiving a lot more entry points. It's a central one on campus, and it's also a larger volume of people that are there. So it makes total sense. And we can change this, the view of the statistics, the size of our outliers, and really how all of this information is symbolized. But I think, the default here works really pretty well. So that's a start. That's our initial set in order to visualize some of the data. Let's just resize our window here. And now the next thing that I want to do is to actually start to understand our relationships and our logs to the buildings themselves. So I'm seeing here hour, and also the other piece of information that I want to bring in is building. And I'm going to make a chart out of that, and we're going to call that actually a heat chart here. So I can see, the buildings along the top and the times here. Just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to flip the fields so that I can see. This is something that makes it's a little bit more intuitive for me to be able to see our time period is going from left to right in our buildings from top to bottom here. And again, just that same sort of validation on building M. It's receiving a lot of entry points, and that makes sense really based off of the data that we have and our understanding of the facility as well too. So now you can go through and start to highlight the different places that were entered at different times of the day. And you can also visually see this via a heat chart. So the darker purple is showing a higher number of entries to the building, and then you start to see that tail off towards the end of the day as well too. And we've got a couple of late night workers. Okay, all right, so now what I want to do is take this to the next step, and we're going to use link analysis now supported in Insights. Link analysis is a data analysis technique used in network theory that's used to evaluate the relationships or the connections between network nodes. And these relationships can be between various types of objects or nodes, including people, organizations, or transactions with buildings like entry log statistics. And link analysis has three primary purposes: to find matches for known patterns of interests, or to find anomalies by detecting violated known patterns, or to find new patterns of interest like social networking or marketing and business intelligence analysis. So these blue dots are our buildings. And every time you click on a building, you can understand and see the employees that had entered it. And all of these employees are sized by the number of times that they show up in the entry log statistics. So we have some employees that only enter building O, like 1620. But we may end up finding that we've got some other employees that actually make their way around quite a bit to a variety of the buildings, and we can now see the interrelationships between this employee, the buildings that they visited, and the time of day that those buildings were visited as well, and we can also see that visually. So this is starting to get really pretty interesting, because we can start to then filter our employees by, well, let's just take a look at the ones that show up the most within our entry log statistics here. So I'm just going to highlight the top. We'll take a look at the top few here. And this is just filtering that data so that we can understand that we've got a few employees that were really, well, they're getting around, and this could be completely normal for the course of an employee's activity throughout the day, but there may be some things that start to show up and make us a little bit more concerned about their interrelationship to the buildings that they're facing. So let's take this another step here. Let's get into a little bit more detail about those denial of entry points. So I'm going to take off our filter that we have here based off of our employee ID, and I'm going to change this approach for what we're looking at into those points in which we have a denial of entry. And what I mean by that is that these are the points in which we have employees that were not able to scan into the buildings. And what we see here is that we have Q has a couple of individuals that were denied entry that at a couple of different gates here, and we can see actually the gates in which those denials occurred, and understand more when they occurred, and try to look for some anomalies and some concerning patterns then as well too. But the other end here too, we have an employee that had frequented a variety of buildings and received multiple denials of entry. And this one concerns us specifically because building D is a high security access facility, and there were 2 attempts for entry at 7 and 9. So this would mean, employee 986 is going to have a little conversation with our security team. And we've been able to understand that by utilizing our view of this data in a way that's meaningful and actionable through quick analyses as well.
We've now completed 2 vignettes, and we're now at our last example. We've discussed global operations using dashboards, local operations and analysis using Insights, and now we're going to walk through our tactical example. To do that, we're going to show you how to use ArcGIS Mission and how you can acquire tactical situational awareness, peer-to-peer communication and collaboration, along with the ability to capture and store mission activity for after-action review. At the start of the presentation here today, I mentioned that sometimes problems can't be solved from a command center alone. ArcGIS Mission is our solution when we need to send teams and manage teams out in the field. We'll show you robust command and control between a command center and field teams that will help ensure safety and security for all personnel. I'm going to turn this over now to Jamon and Darren, and they're going to walk us through ArcGIS Mission. And similar to our previous vignettes, our example will be on our Redlands campus, where we're responding to a suspicious package.
Hello and welcome to Esri's User Conference 2020. My name is Darren Pustum and I'm the Product Manager for ArcGIS Mission. Presenting with me today is Product Owner for ArcGIS Mission, Jamon Johnson. During this session, you will learn how ArcGIS Mission supports day-to-day operations, as well as how you can deploy Mission to organize and manage your teams when responding to planned events like a marathon or address unplanned circumstances. You will also learn how during these events, team members can keep track of each other, coordinate activities, collaborate with other teammates. Then, how these activities are shared with their leaders back at the office, in a fusion center, or at an incident command post. And further, have all of this information stored as a system of record for transparency, later analysis, and process improvement. ArcGIS Mission is one of the newest applications coming out of Esri, and it tackles some of the burning challenges many organizations have been facing for some time. One of those key issues faced is not being able to have persistent communication with teams when they leave the office to go out in areas where they are on again, off again networks, and communication and collaboration becomes challenging. For example, during a wildfire, not being able to see where your teammates are and to perhaps warn them of rapidly changing situations. Or as a team coordinator, not being able to provide updated information to teammates as it happens, when it happens, so they are not stranded in the field with data and information stored on their mobile device. And storing all of these activities, which is valuable organizational information for accountability, to help in making informed decisions, and in improving efforts. And with many tasks and teams to coordinate during these time-sensitive events, the need for a one-system, straightforward approach that can streamline workflows. ArcGIS Mission specifically addresses these concerns and brings those capabilities to the table in a situational awareness and mission management solution that provides organizations with a really comprehensive understanding of the operating environment, where team members can track, monitor, and coordinate movement via location sharing and peer-to-peer communication. Keeping in mind typical operational workflows down to the tactical level, ArcGIS Mission provides the core planning requirements to get your operation up and running in as little time as possible, offering up tools to support defining what your mission or event is, where it is, who will be on duty during the activities, as well as a way to monitor and provide guidance. In essence, ArcGIS Mission effectively organizes people, resources, and operational information into a consolidated picture that facilitates collaboration and helps ensure safe and efficient execution. And during the execution of these events, ArcGIS Mission enables you to assign tasks, track teammates' whereabouts, and report on activities. Simply being able to reach out, connect via messaging to know everyone is safe, Mission provides these capabilities right out of the box. Mission also enables users to conduct temporal analysis to understand patterns even when the mission is active. Let's say going back an hour in time to review activities that took place, or at the completion of a mission to conduct after-action reports that are useful for training and future mission planning. And now that you have a good idea of the characteristics of Mission, Jamon is going to dive in to give you a true feeling of how the planning, execution, and review of a mission all come together in one seamless end-to-end system for mission management and tactical situational awareness.
A mission is a fundamental way to organize people, content, and materials centered around a common goal. I can view a list of mission that I own or am a member of to see the details about each mission, such as the name, the summary when the mission were created, who owns the mission, as well as the status of the mission. Now, during our daily morning brief, the Esri head of security provided additional information that I will use to complete that mission. So let's go ahead and click on the mission details and continue with the mission planning phase. Now, the Overview tab provides details about each mission. So I will edit that information that I gathered this morning. The people or organizational users added to the mission as members. And today we will have Travis Walker, who is the lead of our K9 team, and I just added Travis to the mission as well. Those people can also be organized in a team, and let's go ahead and create a team for Travis. Now Travis has been added to that team. The content is the mission map, which includes geospatial layers to provide context about the operation environment. As we can see, we can turn on layers off and on, and we support both dynamic and static layers. Now, users also wanted the ability to author and send reports within the app. At 10.8, we introduced this concept of tactical summary reports, which allows members to organize and communicate information of a matter. And then there's additional information / materials. This additional information or materials can be quickly uploaded to the mission. For example, this could include pictures, text files, or PDF. And we'll go ahead and provide more enhancement to that mission by uploading the staff complaint procedures to each of the responders. So on the devices, the responders will have an option to download this information. The head of security also indicated that he wanted to share mission-related information to Esri directors. At 10.8.1, we can now create an integrated ArcGIS dashboard without leaving the mission experience. The dashboard contains information from the mission, but also can be configured to add more data. So let's go ahead and create that dashboard. Give it some tags so we can quickly search for it. I'll add a summary here. Just like that, we've actually created the ArcGIS dashboard. So let's go ahead and open that dashboard to see what it looks like. Now, obviously, the dashboard is empty at this moment, but as the mission is starting to unfold, the dashboard will be populated with certain mission data, and we'll get an opportunity to look at this mission once we transition into the executive view. Now, let's do a quick review to ensure that all the mission information is accurate. Everything looks great to me. So now we'll go ahead and change the status of the mission. We'll change the mission status from draft to active. And in this case, now all the mission members can start to participate in the mission as we transition from the mission planning phase to the mission execution and managing. It looks like we've received some real-time information from out in the field. All my team leaders have responded. Seems everything should be good to go. Awesome. Really good quiet day. Wow, looks like I received another message. And this time this message looks like it's coming from another mission analyst in the command center. It's Darren, who is actually the mission manager for the Redlands Fusion Center. Let's click on that message here and see what's going on. Oh, he's telling me be advised there's a suspicious package being placed throughout the city at restaurants. Oh, wow. Oh, man, I tell you what, probably a good idea now to go ahead and task my team members to actually go do a quick investigation around the Esri Cafe. So I go and click on my task menu, drop a location, identify Andrew, give him a description, it's assigned, priority, make it critical, due date, and I'm also going to require Andrew to submit a report. Create that particular task. So I'll go ahead and send another task. This time I'll send that task to Travis, who is actually part of the K9 team. Give the task a description. It's task assigned. Make it a high priority to Travis. Give it a due date. And I'm also going to require Travis to submit a report on completing his task. And as we see on the screen there, we actually have individuals starting to move in their position throughout the mission itself. And it's probably a good idea for me to go ahead and send another geo message. I actually send a geo message to the entire team now and let them know that they need to be on the lookout in this particular area. Around the cafe. Now, like I said, the good thing about these geo messages, instead of sending individual messages to team members or responders, I send one geo message, and that message is broadcast to everyone who prescribed in the mission, even to the Fusion Center analysts as well. So now when we're gone, we can definitely start to see some of the information being populated in the message, as well as those different tasks that we submitted. See the status of the task, the description of the task as well. So we had a lot of activity happening out in the field by our responders. So I'm going to go ahead and transition roles from the mission analyst to a mission responder out in the field. ArcGIS Mission Responder is that mobile application to allow our users to participate in active missions when they're out in the field. Very similar to the mission manager, as a responder, I can see all the missions that I'm a part of. So let's go ahead and click on the Esri Security Campus mission. I can see the details of each of the missions. For example, the mission map. Very similar to all the details that we saw from the mission manager, like the summary, who owns the mission, the detailed description that we updated. I also have the ability to see the different teams that participate in the mission, as well as the different mission members. And any additional information. So let's click on that. And this is a staff complaint document that we added during the mission planning phase. All now available at the mission responder out in the field. So let's go ahead and click on the mission. As you notice, when I click on the mission, my status changed from the amber light to the green light. And just like the mission responder, other responders out in the field have the ability to click on different layers in my mission. I can see all the content in the mission, like the member extent, have the ability to quickly change the base map if we wanted to, as well as turn layers on and off within the particular mission. But simply turn the layers on and off. So zoom into the mission itself. I can see the different team members who position at the cafe in Building E. Notice that there's some geo messages that were sent as well. And I can also was actually part of messages, although I wasn't actually logged into the messages, but still was able to receive those messages from the manager. It looks like I actually have a particular task to complete. Click on the task, change the status. I can update this task. And this particular task also have a report that's required. I'm also going to take a photo to confirm my report. Now that I've submitted my report, let me go ahead and send a message to my team and let them know that I'm heading back. Back in the command center, we can see that the messages that were sent out in the field from the responders. For example, this is a message that I sent as a respondent out in the field, headed back to the office, and both Andrew and Jason already replied to those messages. We also saw that I've completed a report, and these other reports are still in progress and are assigned. And then there was a particular report that was associated with the individual task that was completed. So I can click on the report itself, see the detailed information about that report. Nothing happened. And also look like there's an attachment. And yep, we see the dog sniffing the bag and nothing inside of the bag, so all seems to be good to go. Now, mission can be of different sizes and time frames, but it's important to note that all the activities and events that occur within the missions are written to the system of record. Therefore, I have a historical log of what occurred throughout the mission lifetime. So now let's take a look at all the information that's happened inside of the mission and was being populated to that dashboard that we created in the mission planning phase. As you can see, now I have information from the different clients that was connected. Have a track log of all of my messages that was sent and a timestamp. The number of tracks to see throughout the different location, as well as the number of messages sent in the past hour. So now this information can be shared with those Esri directors or even inside of the Fusion Center for additional analysis. Now you can see the different track layers that were sent, as well as the location of the different mission responders. And again, this mission dashboard can be configured to add more information or less information based on the mission executive or observers. Again, ArcGIS mission provides that tactical situation awareness of real-time sharing of important operational information across your organizations and within your enterprise geospatial cloud. It provides an easy, focused, collaborative experience and tools to plan, execute, and monitor daily operations or planned and unplanned events.
That concludes our presentation today. Thanks to Lyle, Phil, Jaman, and Darren for great technical demonstrations. As we conclude, I'll leave you with one more parting thought. GIS is probably the most unique technology stack that can truly operationalize your data, and I think we showed that well today. But let's also talk about deploying the platform and the role of a command and control capability and how technology must support the mission. ArcGIS can be deployed to a traditional command center run by one agency, a fusion center, that involves numerous agencies, or maybe now, most importantly, to a virtual command center where employees are scattered and decentralized, even working from home like many of us today due to the current public health crisis. We showed amazing technology today, along with tradecraft and even flexible deployment options. This concludes our presentation. Should you have any questions or seek additional information, please feel free to contact me directly at cwalter@esri.com. And thank you again for your time today.